Recently, Charlotte's $800 million Bank of America Stadium renovation was rated the worst economic deal of the year. The award, which was first handed out in 2018, recognizes a state or municipal government's ability to best exemplify the wastefulness and ineffectiveness of economic development subsidy programs. The competition was fierce, with other stadium deals joining corporate headquarters, factories, data centers, and other subsidized mega projects across America, but ultimately, Charlotte's deal stood out from the rest for a combination of factors that included its high cost, lack of transparency, poor returns, questionable economic justifications, and the Panthers' ownership's checkered history with subsidized projects. And as a realtor, it's me and my team's job to break down everything so you feel prepared if you ever decide to move here. Today, the Bank of America Stadium is home to the Carolina Panthers and Charlotte FC, all owned by David Tepper, top 3 richest NFL owners and known for his ruthlessness. But it wasn't always this way. The Bank of America Stadium opened in 1996, built at a time when Charlotte was desperate to prove it belonged on the national stage. In the early 90s, Charlotte was a fast-growing banking hub, but outside the region, almost no one took the city seriously. It didn't have any major league sports, didn't have national cultural influence, and it didn't have the kind of marquee institutions that signal this city has arrived. And local leaders believed that landing an NFL team would finally push Charlotte into the national conversation. The only problem was that at this time, the climate of the NFL was brutally competitive for expansion cities. You had to prove you had the money, the market, the infrastructure, and most importantly, the political will to build a stadium. Cities like Baltimore, St. Louis, and Jacksonville were all jockeying for franchises, and the NFL made it clear. The fastest, cleanest path to securing a team was to show you could finance a modern stadium with minimal public risk. That pressure pushed Charlotte to get creative. Instead of relying on taxpayer dollars, which voters across the country were increasingly rejecting, Charlotte leaned into personal seat licenses, a then radical first-of-its-kind idea where fans essentially privately funded the cost of the stadium. Here's how it worked. The city couldn't just build a new stadium out of nowhere. They first needed to convince the NFL they were capable of financing one. But the NFL also wouldn't award a franchise unless the city showed it had the money and fan support. So Charlotte did both at the same time. They announced that if enough PSLs were sold, it would prove the Carolinas could financially support a team and pay for most of the stadium's construction privately. Everyone that bought got permanent transferable rights to buy season tickets in the same seats every year, and they all understood how valuable those seats were about to become. Not to mention, there was a real civic pride for people in saying that they helped bring the Panthers to Charlotte, planting their flag in something that would define the next era of the city's growth. So people showed up in droves. In that first push, the Panthers sold more than 55,000 PSLs, raising around $120 million toward a stadium that cost about $187 million to build, all before a single regular season snap was played in Charlotte. That's how the city earned one of the fastest NFL expansion approvals in history, pioneering the way stadiums across the league were financed and a badge of honor for the community. And a lot of the credit for that early era went to the original owner, Jerry Richardson. He was the former Colts receiver who reinvented himself as a fast food billionaire. People talked about him like a hometown hero, the guy who went to battle for Charlotte and made sure regular folks here had their own team to proudly stand behind. Under his watch, the Panthers made multiple playoff runs, went to 2 Super Bowls, and kept the stadium relevant with steady upgrades instead of chasing some suburban dome. But as stadiums across the country aged and were replaced every 20 to 30 years, a narrative started forming. Modern sports teams expect modern playgrounds. You see, across the country, teams were upgrading to billion-dollar palaces with retractable roofs, 4K jumbotrons, luxury clubs, and mixed-use entertainment districts. And they were all using Charlotte's PSL system to finance them. But as stadiums got bigger and flashier, PSL prices ballooned, and what once cost a few hundred or a couple $1,000s suddenly cost tens of thousands or even 6 figures. Eventually, PSLs alone couldn't cover the gap anymore. Cities were told that they had to chip in with hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of dollars of public funding, or risk losing their teams to the next metro willing to pay up. The crazy part is you can see the same pattern playing out in housing. Charlotte used to be the affordable big city in the southeast, but as money has poured in and prices have climbed, what used to buy you a solid starter home now barely gets you in the door. So if you're planning to move here, or even just thinking about it, make sure you reach out to me and my team so we can help you actually win in this market instead of getting priced out of it. Text or call my number down below to get started. Now, back to the stadium side of things, the flash, the glamour, and the promises of Super Bowl and economic impact were used as justification for the enormous public subsidies. The teams claimed that these stadiums were engines of growth that would boost tourism, create jobs, revitalize neighborhoods, and more than pay for themselves over time. But in reality, when we look at the decades of studies that have been done, much of this gets disproven. The spending that does happen in and around stadiums doesn't magically appear from nowhere. Residents just shift their entertainment dollars that they spend in and around the city to the stadium on game days. And when we really look closely, stadiums have little to no measurable impact on long-term economic growth. The jobs they create are overwhelmingly part-time, seasonal, and low wage, not the kind of stable, upward mobility jobs cities actually need. And the few high-paying jobs that exist from the players and coaching staff don't actually boost the local economy. In reality, most players don't live in Charlotte full time, so their multi-million-dollar incomes barely touch the local economy. And the owners are usually headquartered elsewhere, so the city doesn't see any of those billions in revenue. Then when you think about the scale of the public money involved, hundreds of millions, even billions of dollars, the missed opportunities become staggering. That same money that goes to stadiums could have gone towards permanent affordable housing, transit systems, public schools, neighborhood revitalizations, parks, small business grants, or infrastructure that actually raises quality of life for everyone, instead of just the fans who can afford to walk through a new premium club lounge. And Jerry Richardson understood these issues very well. He was the steady, old-school owner that people trusted to not threaten the city the way other owners did. But then something happened in 2017 that changed everything. An explosive investigation by Sports Illustrated revealed that Richardson had engaged in repeated workplace misconduct, including sexual harassment of female employees and racially insensitive remarks toward staff. The allegations were so serious and numerous that the NFL launched a formal investigation, and the pressure on the team became overwhelming. Within months, Richardson announced he would sell the franchise at the end of the season. Then enters David Tepper, a man who built a reputation in Wall Street for his aggressive trades and an almost cold-blooded willingness to do whatever it took. When Jerry Richardson announced he would sell the team in the wake of a scandal, the bidding process became one of the most high-profile ownership hunts in NFL history. Several groups stepped forward, from celebrity-led groups to entertainment moguls, but Tepper stood out for his unmatched financial firepower. He didn't need complicated loans or a group of co-investors like the rest of the buyers. He could write the check himself. And his bid, roughly $2.3 billion, was the highest price ever paid for an NFL team at the time. And crucially, he offered to buy the stadium as is, without demanding immediate public subsidies or relocation threats. That made him the league's safest and most predictable option. So within weeks, the deal was approved almost unanimously, and just like that, Tepper became not only the new owner of the Carolina Panthers, but the wealthiest owner in the entire league. But since then, Tepper's tenure has been defined by instability, broken promises, and a relentless focus on maximizing profits no matter the cost. On the field, the Panthers have yet to post a single winning season under his ownership, cycling through coaches at a historic rate, burning through quarterbacks, and resetting the organization so often that fans joke the team never actually finishes building anything. Off the field, his business decisions have followed the same pattern. In 2019, he unveiled a massive $800 million plan to build a state-of-the-art practice facility and team headquarters in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Construction started fast, and the project was promoted as a long-term economic catalyst expected to bring thousands of jobs and major development around the site. But in early 2022, Tepper abruptly stopped all construction, claiming the city failed to meet funding obligations, and instead of negotiating or scaling back, he simply walked away, bankrupting contractors and throwing the entire economy in chaos. But unbelievably, this wasn't an isolated incident. In 2020, Tepper had promised Charlotte a crown jewel as well, a state-of-the-art Charlotte FC headquarters and training complex at the long-vacant Eastland Mall site. Then, almost out of nowhere, Tepper backed out, saying the economics no longer made sense. It's possible that he saw the writing on the wall with construction costs and real estate exploding. Every developer, builder, and homeowner were feeling it back then, and even more so now. Homes that used to be affordable have all but disappeared. So if you're planning your move here, I just want to reiterate that you can reach out to me and my team. This is literally what we help people navigate every single day. Now, back to the video, fans and locals increasingly feel that Tepper views Charlotte not as a community to invest in, but as an asset to extract from and shift blame when things collapse. And looming over everything was addressing the aging stadium that everyone knew would become his biggest and most consequential ask yet. On June 3rd, 2024, after years of subtly implying that the stadium needed renovations or full replacement, the full $800 million renovation proposal dropped like a bomb. The public saw it for the first time, and just a few weeks later, council was expected to vote on it. Several council members said point blank that they felt too rushed and too blindsided, that they didn't have all the documentation, the contract language, or the economic analysis to make a decision on a deal of this scale so quickly. On the other side, the public were overwhelmingly against it. The city ran an online survey, as they're required to do, and the responses were nearly 4-1 opposed. And when you really zoom into this deal, it's not hard to see why people hate it so much. Charlotte is spending $650 million in public money, while Tepper only has to put in $150 million, plus later spending that he controls the timing of. This public chunk is almost as much as it would cost to just build a new stadium in the first place. One analysis says taxpayers are paying almost 4/5 of the price of a new facility, but getting a glorified makeover in return. The money pays for nice receipts, refreshed concourses, upgraded lighting, better sound, and modern concessions, but it doesn't have a roof. It can't host major indoor events. It's constrained by its 30-year-old structure, and it lacks the flexibility that newer stadiums use to generate year-round economic activity. So even after taxpayers fund this massive upgrade, the stadium will be structurally obsolete the moment it opens. And the worst part is that the deal itself admits this. The contract explicitly states that after the renovations are complete, the city and Tepper Sports must begin formal discussions about a brand new stadium by mid-2030s, with the goal of having a completely new stadium built before the non-relocation agreement ends in 2045. So essentially, we are paying hundreds of millions of dollars now so we can pay billions later. What these renovations really do is kick the can down the road and hand the mess to a future Charlotte. The current mayor and council get to say, we kept the team, we upgraded the stadium, we did something. But the bill and the real problem don't go away. They get pushed onto the next generation of leaders and taxpayers. We get to subsidize a temporary fix for a billionaire's asset and leave everyday Charlotte residents with the bill and the consequences.